Broadway, Broadway beat, Broadway, Broadway beat, Broadway beat, Broadway beat, Broadway. Listen to the Broadway beat. Broadway makes you wanna move your feet. Everybody's tapping into everything that's happening on Broadway beats, Broadway beats, Broadway beats, Broadway beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, where we bring you the very best of what the New York theater scene has to offer. This week it's the latest Encore's musical and 2 new Broadway plays. We'll take you to City Center for a look at the 48th production of Encore's. It was the delightful Yip Harburg, Burton Lane, and Fred Setti musical FINIAN'S Rainbow, which stars Cheyenne Jackson, Kate Baldwin, and Tony Award winner Jim Norton. We'll also visit with 2 other Tony Award winners, Jeremy Irons and Joan Allen, who have returned to Broadway in Michael Jacobs' new play, Impressionism, directed by Jack O'Brien. But let's start things off at the opening night celebration for Yasmina Reis's new play called God of Carnage, which is playing at the Bernard B. Jacobs Theater. Translated by Christopher Hampton and directed by Matthew Warchus, God of Carnage stars Jeff Daniels, Hope Davis, James Gandolfini, and Academy Award winner Marcia Gay Harden. God of Carnage is a comedy of manners without the manners. The play deals with the aftermath of a playground altercation between 2 boys and what happens when their parents meet to talk about it.
Well, I've been Yasmina's translator since art, really, so that's for more than 10 years. And this play was commissioned by a German theatre, a Swiss theatre actually, in Zurich. And so I went to see it there, and in German, and then I went to see Yasmina's production in Paris. And actually, Yasmina's production in Paris and our production in London were pretty well simultaneous, which was interesting. And now we've done a rather radical thing. We've moved it from France to America. That's to say, the characters are Americans. They're not French anymore. All her other plays, we left the characters back in Paris, but this time we thought the story was so universal that we recited it in Brooklyn.
All of her plays, although they're very different, and certainly her work has grown a lot over the years, but all of her plays work in a way which is not intellectual, almost anti-intellectual. They're very emotional plays. She takes a very simple situation and then she cracks it open, and from under the surface of these civilized lives, there suddenly emerges a huge amount of aggression or passion or secret longing and yearning and turbulence. And I think that's what I love about it, managing those emotions on the stage and getting the comedy out of that, and also the sadness or the pain out of that as well, this cocktail of high emotions in seemingly innocuous situations. 4 people gather to talk in a civilized way about an interaction between their 2 sons, and at the beginning of this play you have no idea that it's going to develop into the kind of carnage that it ultimately does.
What do you mean made aware of his responsibility?
I'm sure your son is not a savage.
Of course Benjamin isn't a savage.
Yes, he is.
Alan! Why say something like that?
He's a savage.
Well, how does he explain his behavior?
He doesn't want to discuss it.
But he ought to discuss it.
He ought to do any number of things. He ought to come here, he ought to discuss it, he ought to be sorry for it. Clearly you have parenting skills that put us to shame. We hope to improve, but in the meantime, please bear with us.
Come on, it's an idiot! Let's go over.
I play one of the 2 moms, this character, Annette, the more seemingly kind of passive member of the quartet. I read the play, and I just thought it was a really dark kind of treatise on human nature and what really lurks under the kind of politeness that people kind of banter back and forth. And I found it to be really fascinating. And as we've worked on the play, we've all fallen more in love with the play. I wish Yasmina were here tonight, because it's really her play. That's what we're all working on, and it's been an amazing experience.
Because, you know, it's about one thing on paper. All of her plays are like that. But when you go to them and see them, there's so much more to them than what's on the page.
Absolutely. When I read the play over the summer, someone asked me, they said, is it a comedy? And I said, no, it's brutal. It's brutal. And an audience experiences it in a very different way, although I've had people who've come to see it and who've said, I felt so bad laughing because it was so ugly what was going on stage, but I couldn't help myself. And I think the play works on many levels, and that's to Yasmina's great credit.
Alan Raleigh is the character I play. He's a lawyer, and he's a brilliant lawyer. He's an international lawyer, but he's a killer. He's predatory. Takes no prisoners, whether it's a phone conversation or whether it's a conversation here or whether he's in a courtroom, and he loves the game of it. And I think, and what I do with the BlackBerry, I think people in the audience will know this guy, will have met this guy, seen this guy, and will be very happy with what happens to him in the end.
You know what I love about her plays? They say one thing when you read about them, and then you see the show, and they're about so much more.
Yeah, I mean, she's brilliant at setting up a premise. In our case, 2 sets of parents, 2 11-year-old kids that got in a fight on a playground, and now the parents are there to kind of talk about it to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's simple. And she's really wonderful. Same thing with art. Guy buys a painting for a lot of money. It's just a white canvas. The 3 friends, one of them says it's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. The other guys are going, I mean, it's a great premise. And from that, she can go into so many wonderful areas, and people starting to say what they really think and feel. And it's just, she's a really wonderful playwright. I'm so glad I got to do this play.
Yes, I stand up for civilization. And it is lucky there are people prepared to do that. Do you think being a Neanderthal is a better idea?
Come on now, come on!
Is it normal to criticize someone for not being a Neanderthal?
No one's saying that. No one's criticizing you.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
What were we supposed to do? Sue you? Not speak to each other and try and slaughter each other with insurance claims?
Stop it, Ronnie.
Stop what?
You're blowing things out of proportion.
I don't give a You force yourself to rise above petty-mindedness, and you end up humiliated and completely on your own.
Yes.
Well, it's hard to know what to say about Veronica in a way without giving certain things away. But I do think that she's someone who very much believes in the need to do the right thing, to try to heal things with the right gesture, but unfortunately she's a little reckless with her words. So she has certain words that she uses to make a point, and they tip the scale the wrong way. They get people's back up because she can't let things die. Veronica's the person who loves basketball. I'm sure it's her favorite sport, because in basketball, when people foul, they go, my bad. She loves that. My bad, it's my bad. So you don't have to go, well, shouldn't you have put the trash out, honey? Because honey goes, my bad, I should have put the trash out. You know what I mean? So there's this thing in her that needs that responsibility, and that can be really maddening. I mean, I don't see what's so maddening about her on some level. I think she's great, but she's fierce and loyal, and she's unhappy ultimately.
Henry has a 9-year-old sister, Camille, who's furious with her father because last night her father got rid of the hamster.
You got rid of the hamster?
Yes. This hamster makes the most god-awful racket all night long and then spends the whole day fast asleep. Henry was in a lot of pain last night. He was being driven crazy by the noise that the hamster was making. And to tell you the truth, I've wanted to get rid of it for a while now. So I said to myself, okay, that's it, and I took it and I put it in the street. Now, I thought they loved gutters and trains and all that, but I guess not, because it just sat there, paralyzed on the sidewalk. Now, they're not domestic animals, they're not wild animals. I really don't know where their natural habitat is. You've dumped them in the woods, they're probably just as unhappy. So I really don't know where you're supposed to put them.
You left it outside?
He left it there and tried to convince Camille it had run away, but she wasn't having it.
And was the hamster gone this morning?
It was gone, yes.
Tony Award winners Jeremy Irons and Joan Allen have returned to Broadway for the first time in over 20 years in the new play Impressionism, which is playing at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater. Directed by the renowned Jack O'Brien. We caught up with them and the rest of the cast, which includes Marsha Mason, at their recent opening night party at Sardi's. Impressionism is the story of a world-traveling photojournalist, played by Mr. Irons, and a New York gallery owner, played by Miss Allen, who discover each other and also that there might be an art to repairing broken lives.
Well, Michael wrote about these screens coming in, but he didn't really have a clear idea of what he wanted to do with it. And I knew that we couldn't be looking at the wall, that we'd have to be looking out front. So I figured out with Scott Pask and all my designers this idea of these floating panels that came in, so you could see through them at the same time. It's really kind of beautiful.
You've assembled a wonderful, wonderful cast. Talk about your two leads.
Well, Jeremy and Joan. First of all, I mean, it's such a thrill to get them back on a Broadway stage, you know. I've known Joan since All My Sons, which we did in the late 80s. And we've been good friends all these years, but we've never worked together since then. And we keep seeing each other. And I called her up and I said, where are you? And she said, I'm on the Upper West Side. And I said, so am I. I'm bringing something over to you. And I walked it over. And she called the next day and said she wanted to do it. We all felt that way about it, so it was a calling.
Well, it's fun for me. I'm playing this incredibly wealthy man who's a gadabout who buys a Modigliani painting for $36 million. And that's so foreign to me because I'm kind of downtown. He's a little uptown. But so it's a lot of fun to dig into what a really, really, really wealthy person might feel and decide. But I decided he might have a lot of fun having a lot of money. You know, if you got a lot of money, I think you should have a lot of fun.
Yes, well, she's a wonderful sort of New York, very wealthy lady who has some conflicting feelings about being a grandmother for the first time and takes this little journey through buying a piece of art for her daughter on the birth of her first child. So I just think it's really quite wonderful about the whole relationships in it.
And what you love about the process of putting together a brand new play, it's very rare because there's so many revivals that come in, but this is a brand new play you worked on. What was that like, the experience?
Well, first of all, it's very unusual that we brought a new play straight into Broadway. So that really was quite special, and I think probably risky, but ultimately, I think we all like to fly that high. And then it's a question of working with the playwright and Jack, and then the audiences. And I just love that process. Maybe, you know, I have a sort of, I guess, kind of personal sense to it because of all my time with Neil and the plays and everything. And I sort of have a great deal of respect for the playwright.
Well, whatever she's reminded of, it is still available.
Oh, I'm not paying $42,000 for a lithograph.
It's an aqua tint.
You know, my daughter and I saw the original at the Chicago Art Institute when she was 14. While we were looking at it, she said, "I love you, Mom," or "I want to go home."
That character's been, it's been very tricky because it's only on there for such a short period of time, and I had so many ideas for myself, because I believe that she's an artist model, but she's also an artist, and that scene has changed a lot in a sense of how we perceived her, how we perceived the relationship between her and Palmer Wilson, who's played by Jeremy Irons, and and we just kept chipping away at it, and I think I'm still finding it, to be quite honest. I mean, there are definitely a lot of things that I wouldn't say settled on, but the decisions that I've made that seem to be working for the character, but she's so delicious, she's someone who's very confident and enjoys life and enjoys enjoys the scene truly, and that's the part that's been exciting for me, to come in and to really have just a ball, and it doesn't matter what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. I just have to when I show up there, I get to embody her and live out her fantasy,
I play, a fiancé of this young engaged couple who they've just gotten engaged and they've just found an apartment, and there's this space right above their fireplace for this painting that they've fallen in love with, and they really want the painting. They don't have a lot of money, and they go into the gallery with the hopes that it's still there, and it is, and then over the course of the scene, they learn a lot about what the painting means to Joan, her character, Catherine, and then we sort of, through what we think the painting means, she learns from us, and the whole play sort of comes together. And you'll have to come see the play if you want to see what happens after that.
It's so great to have seen where your career is going and where it's gone.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a dream come true, and I hope we get to do more of it, and more plays, more musicals, whatever it is, and I'm happy to be here.
It is all about the language. Now, not only the spoken word, but the body language, the language of the spirit. And I mention that because of the two characters that I play in Impressionism. One is Chimbwane, which literally translates as sweet potato, who serves as a spiritual enabler for the character Thomas, performed by Jeremy Irons. And then the flip side of that character is the New York baker, Mr. Linder, who serves as a spiritual enabler for the Catherine character, performed by Joan Allen. And Michael Jacobs, the playwright, it was a magnanimous gift to whatever actor was going to perform those roles. But I'm happy that I was the chosen one.
They like this painting, although we have a difference of opinion about what it means. Do you think you could help us?
No, I wouldn't know anything about that, but they're definitely together, those two.
How can you tell?
Well, they're with each other long enough that the man covers his face up with the newspaper when he's looking at his wife, which is what I do too. Because the woman, she got older and she thinks he might notice that.
Well, it is a great theatre. I played here 25 years ago with The Real Thing and loved it then. And although it seats over 1,000 people, you do feel very close to the audience. I was playing in a play in London at the National Theatre, just over 1,000-seater, but it was a completely different configuration. They were much further away from you, a lot of the people at the back, which you don't have in the Plymouth, which is nice. It feels very intimate, and there's a lot of feedback from the audience, a lot of laughter, a lot of other things too, a lot of silence sometimes, and that's very nice. You never get that doing film, you see, because you're always playing to a camera and you never really see it with it. I mean, maybe if there's a big premiere, you'll see it with one audience and you'll hear their reaction. But that's the great thing that theatre has. A lot of people seeing the same thing and feeling many of the same things. Laughter. I mean, when you get waves after waves of laughter coming from the audience, it's a great feeling, I think, for us as well as for them.
Well, we've only been performing for 3 weeks, It's been luxurious, actually, because we had a lengthy rehearsal time, really, and a long time to technically get the play right, which is also very generous of the producer to have given us 10 days on the stage to get all the slides, all the projections, all the timing of the music. And so I believe that great care has been put into this piece of work, from the director to the producer to all the other actors to all of the designers. The designers started working on this play 6 months ago, conceiving how the paintings would come in, how do you have a gallery, because you can't have the actors like this the whole time. They were very, very dedicated, and so it's just really. I feel honored to be part of a beautiful new play that has so many talented people attached to it.
What you love about the roles that you play, if you could talk briefly about them, and then working with this ensemble cast. It's a beautiful ensemble.
It's a wonderful ensemble. Everybody is just playing multiple roles, and it's been fantastic to watch the process. When I think back first day of rehearsal and our first weeks of rehearsal, but it's like anything, the more you practice, hopefully the better you get at it. And so, I love my character. I think she's a very strong, smart woman who's kind of got some things maybe not so right in her head, but has lived through a certain amount of things and is understandably guarded, I think in how she conducts her life. And she, through the course of the play, sort of gets her eyes opened, and I think that's a great thing.
You don't get it when it's right in front of you. You have to step back.
What?
Up close, they're just splotches of paint. They're not water lilies until you stand in the right place.
But that's just an artist playing with style. They didn't set out to redefine life.
Oh, but they did. One day this bunch of guys got together, and they decided that maybe life had more depth than what was hanging on the walls. Hey, you may be an illegitimate, drunk off your ass, crazy bastard, but if you know that getting it accurate isn't as important as getting somebody to feel something, then you're a genius. And they figured out that if you give what's in front of you a little distance, you might understand what you're looking at.
The 48th production of City Center's famed Encore series was the delightful Burton Lane, Yip Harburg, and Fred Setti musical FINIAN'S Rainbow, which features a beautiful score, including the classic tune Old Devil Moon. Directed and choreographed by Warren Carlyle, FINIAN'S Rainbow starred Cheyenne Jackson, Kate Baldwin, and Tony Award winner Jim Norton.
Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow the fellow who follows a dream.
I get to sing the most beautiful songs. I think How Are Things in Glockamora is a song that a lot of people know. It's been recorded many times, and it's one of the most beautiful melodies I've ever heard. I think Burton Lane was a master of melody. Also, Look to the Rainbow is another wonderful sort of lullaby. That's the way I think of it anyway. Talking about homeland, talking about your family, talking about your legacy, all things that mean a lot to us, and strike very deep chords with everybody. And then there are the fanciful ones. Something sort of grandish is really Og's song, but I get to sing a little bit of it. The lyrics are masterpieces, the kind of charm, the kind of whimsy that Yip Harburg was able to put in is astounding and so much fun to sing.
I've worked on this show since I was 8 years old, and the music, it's always so pure. I just love it. Everybody, even if they don't know if the show's named FINIAN'S Rainbow, then you say, well, Old Devil Moon. Oh, that's from the show. Look to the Rainbow. That's from. It's amazing that the history of this music has continued because it is so beautiful. It is actual musical theater.
My feet want to dance in the sun. My head wants to rest in the shade. The Lord says go out and have fun, but the landlord says your rent ain't paid. No necessity. It's plain to see what a lovely old world, this silly old world could be. The man is all in a mess, account of necessity.
I play Og, this leprechaun, and he follows Finian from Ireland because he's stolen his crock of gold. And so my mission is to get this crock of gold back, because the longer it's away from me and the more of the 3 wishes that are wished upon this crock of gold, the more human I become, which is a very confusing sort of thing for this guy. I think he a lot of physical feelings that sort of come up as he gets around these pretty ladies in this play that he's not used to feeling.
Well, Finian is a fascinating character. I mean, he's like an onion. You peel him, and what's at the center? It's hard to know. He's a Machiavellian. You know, he's irascible. He's nice. He's manipulative, and he's a dreamer, and he's a storyteller. And it's rather like a cartoon character, because there isn't much time in a show like this, you know, to have an organic process with the character. You just have to come onto your scene and make it real. And I find that fascinating. And of course, doing it in such a short amount of time, you just have to make decisions on your feet very quickly. And I'm finding that exciting.
You and your glance make this romance too hot to handle. Stars in the night, blazing their light, can't hold a candle to your razzle-dazzle you. Got me flying high and wide on a magic carpet ride, full of butterflies inside. Wanna cry, wanna croon, wanna laugh like a loon. It's that old devil moon in your eyes.
Yeah, I didn't know the show at all. I knew like Glaucomora and Look to the Rainbow and of course Old Devil Moon, but I honestly had never read the script until one day. But yeah, it's very, very current. I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, the main crux of the plot is a bigoted white man in power from the South being replaced by an open-minded black man. Where have I heard that? So yeah, it's very current.
Glory, glory,